Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and, with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome, everybody, to Neon Twilight with Solaris, BlueRave. It's a very exciting time when she comes and brings her show over to Nightlight, and it's a thrill to be able to sit and talk with her and share philosophies and let Spirit take us to wherever we're going to go. So, without further ado, welcome to your show, Solaris.
Well, thank you, Barbara. It's a pleasure to be here with you again on Neon Twilight, over here on Nightlight.
Well, I think, when you came up with the title, Neon Twilight, it just had to happen. It's such a pretty name, and it alludes to that time when magic happens, and certainly magic happens whenever you and I get together and talk. And as I say in a lot of the write-ups, I know where we're going to start, but I have no idea where we're going to end up.
It's a multifaceted highway. Yeah, that's okay.
No, I think that's, where Spirit takes us is usually a better place to go than trying to schedule Spirit's influence on whatever is going on within our lives. I think that... And it's such a pleasure always to talk to you, because it's always so exciting to talk to somebody who speaks the same language.
Agreed. Yeah, that's true. We can talk for hours usually. So, yeah, it's wonderful.
Well,
actually, I forgot what we were going to discuss the last time.
Did you remember what tonight was? I had to go back and look.
You know, I think I was going to talk about, was it healing? I can't even remember now.
Faith healing and energy medicine and how it works.
Okay. And I was thinking, for some reason, I was thinking time travel. We must have touched on the time travel aspect and then switched gears because it's been a while. So, yeah, we can talk about that type of energy and consciousness and motion insofar as how it correlates to healing. I just thought that was interesting because people have so much power when it comes down to personal power, spiritual power, but they don't use it. Sometimes they just kind of keep it and let it be diverted or drained off, instead of working it inside their bodies.
Well, I think most people, well, maybe not most. I can't, I don't have a great range of, people to sample. But when you talk about faith healing, when you talk about energy work, most people, even if they have experienced it, don't feel like they are capable of doing it themselves. And I think that's one of the greatest misconceptions out there. And I often, my analogy of our bodies is like an expensive car, and it has all the bells and whistles, but we don't have the owner's manual, so we don't know that it's capable of doing a lot of stuff. And, it's sort of, I love the look on people's faces the very first time they experience Reiki energy, and the actual heat coming from somebody's hands, and the feeling. And it's the same with Tai Chi. the very first time you an individual, if you're working with somebody who knows what they're doing, and they put you in the correct position, you feel the energy running through your body, and it's sort of like that energy can be directed, can be utilized, can be sent to other people. And I don't know if it's most people don't want to take the time to learn it or think they can't. We're all capable of it, and yet so very people utilize it.
Right. I think they get sidetracked on a lot of levels. And also, I think it has a lot to do with just being on the path and just having the right people show up in your orbit insofar as learning these skills or being reactivated, so to speak, especially with Reiki and things like that. It seems to me like earlier in the day, back in the day, it seemed like the right people were always in my orbit. Everybody was synchronicity. It was always the right people, the right teachers. Everything kind of was flowing in alignment with the cosmos. And that was just like a chain reaction of evolution for me on the spiritual path working. A lot of people probably don't have that.
Well, I think everybody has it, but they don't recognize it. When you say, oh, that was a coincidence. No, it wasn't. It was a message from Spirit. Pay attention. Or, what a synchronistic thing. Yeah, it's happening for a reason in your life. Pay attention. And I think that's what drives me so crazy, because the Spirit inside of us is constantly giving us messages. It's just a matter of listen, pay attention. Every now and then one of the shows just doesn't go. There's technical problems or whatever, and I always say to whatever author happens to be the beneficiary of that, I always say, look, this happens for a reason. I don't know what it is, but I do have faith that, when the time is right, it'll happen. And, most authors, will sit back and say, oh, you're right. And it always works out that way. So if there's something that nothing screws up, it's just that it doesn't happen according to my agenda. Right.
Exactly. No, I agree.
But you brought up faith healing, and if anybody wants to experience group energy, find a faith healer and go to one of their meetings, because with the singing and the dancing and the clapping and everything, the energy is so palpable that you can feel it in the room.
Yeah, it's a collective.
Oh my gosh! And when they touch people and they go down, that's so really cool. I've met and know a few faith healers in my day, and they are it's amazing how they can get a crowd going. And you come out of those meetings, even if you haven't been touched by Spirit, you experience the energy in the room, and it is profound. And it's amazing how it can change you, but not, how do I put this? It can change you. It can heal you from a lot of things, but if you don't change your life, whatever the problem is comes back, because what it does is it clears you out so that you can shift your focus. And I think that's something most people don't understand. If you have been, quote unquote, healed, there's a reason, and if you change your life to embrace that healing, then it will be permanent. But if you just go back to everything the way it was, sooner or later the difficulty will return.
I agree, totally. Yeah, and the body really needs that cleansing, whether it's faith healing or just regular Reiki or whatever type of work. It seems to me like once you start clearing out all that debris, then you fill it up with the light and whatever else that you want to do to raise your vibration, your state of consciousness. And I can speak from my own personal experience. It's always been a beneficial thing, clearing away the old. And sometimes people don't realize how much they have, how much baggage or debris they have within their own electromagnetic field and aura until they get cleared. And then all of a sudden it's like, wow, I didn't realize I had all that in there. And that's part of it too, is that you don't know. It's like Pigpen, you just don't know how much you carry with you until you get some kind of work done, and all of a sudden it transmutes alchemically. It's really amazing. And I guess I wanted to touch on that because it seems to me like it's not a lost art, but it's I don't see it as much as I used to, and I find that I'm not sure what's going on with the circles of Reiki these days or anything like that, but I find that it's really something. It's a good resource. Everybody can do it themselves. It's not rocket science, and I find that it will definitely benefit them as they walk this world.
I did. I experienced some really good Reiki healers, and I wanted to, get the 3 levels myself, but I didn't want. It sounds strange, but I talked to one of them and I said, look, I really want to go through the different levels, and I'm willing to do the work, but I have no intention of wanting to be a quote unquote healer myself. I want it for the shifts at the end of each one. I want it for the energy adjustments that you get at the end of each of the segments, because those were what I was looking for. I was looking for that energy boost within myself, rather than being, and there were a number of times when she was taking them through things of, here, screen the body, and I would always step back and say, I can screen it without the Reiki. So, not that the Reiki, but I can already see what's wrong. So, I got out of everybody's way because they were going through it for a different reason, on a different, in a different aspect than I was. So,
right.
But I think that feeling energy work, and especially Tai Chi. Tai Chi is amazing when the energy runs through your body.
Yeah, it is. And I really like it. Absolutely.
That to me was, I did a number of workshops with a Reiki master, and I have vertigo, so I kept falling over and taking people down with me, so I got kicked out of the class. But before I got kicked out, I had such a wonderful experience with the energy itself, and did talk him into saying, look, I have vertigo, and if I get too lightheaded, I'm over. I'm on the floor. And it's, I don't get hurt so long as there's carpet, but and I did work with him separately in a different way to utilize the energy, which was fascinating. So, and if people haven't experienced energy work of any kind, I really recommend you doing it, and I think probably most people have experienced it and don't even know that it's energy. I mean, have you ever been someplace where you got the chills? That's energy.
Right.
I think that so many times people have experienced the spiritual aspect of what's going on, but they've chalked it up to, a ghost walked through me, so I had chills. Well, not really, but okay. And maybe that happens when a ghost does walk through you too, but basically it's energy, and we are an electromagnetic physical being and charged by energy, and so working with energy should come very naturally to everybody.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it does, and like you said, they just don't pay attention to that radar that kicks in once in a while and shows them. So people just kind of null it out. But yeah, definitely.
Do you get warnings energetically if something is going to be happening in the world or in your life?
I used to, when I was younger, I'd get that more premonition, bad vibe kind of thing, not to be in a certain place at a certain time. Now I kind of, I've calibrated so much that I find that even if I know it's there, I just avoid certain things. I just have the radar that just tells me yes, no kind of thing, and just keep navigating. But it seems like some of the world is so grim that, you can't pick your poison and you walk the timeline. At least I do. But the premonitions are like, you have the gnosis, it goes from one level to the next to a point where it's just knowing. And avoiding certain things that are probably not in the highest good for your own evolution on some level.
I think that today, these days, this present time frame is full of roller coasters. Hold on a second. I have to apologize. My cat decided to disconnect me.
What? Oh, that's so funny. I thought I heard a bell. Oh,
No,
you're good. Don't worry.
She took the cord and ripped it right out, and it was like, okay.
That is funny.
Yeah. Well, she's been fed, so she should leave it alone. but anyhow,
coming in, so.
Oh my gosh.
But go ahead. Sorry about that.
Yeah, full moon is usually, everything around here goes wacko. I haven't paid the attention to it that I should. But these days, I'm finding there's a lot of static in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because people are so emotionally tuned into everything that's going on, and then on top of that, whatever's going on in their own personal life, that there's static electricity everywhere. I mean, not really, but it feels to me, if I have to, if I close my eyes and I try to tune in, it's like there's confusion everywhere. And I find that unusual. I mean, we've been through times of stress before, but it's never been quite like this.
I agree.
Do you feel a difference?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the technology, too. We're in a different era, coming in through cell phones and everything else. That's a contributing factor, if you ask me. Even beyond the 5G and all that contributes to the static, which you're describing. The lines are getting a little more scrambled when it comes down to people's states of consciousness, even if they've been kind of reconfigured with their brainwave activity with technology, like with cell phones. I think that they're losing out on or missing out a bit on spiritual calibration. So I think that's where that craziness comes from, that busyness, that weird. Oh, by the way, that's Merlin, my cat now. So that's funny. But yeah, I've noticed it. Yeah.
I'm wondering if, spiritual energy is, for me, not electrically generated, so that the spiritual waves that I feel are very different from the consciousness waves that seem to be around the planet right now. And, do I know what's coming? No. There seems to be such confusion on so many different levels, and it feels as though while historically speaking you can peel away levels like an onion, it feels that there's something different going on now, and I can't put a finger on it. I agree with you. What I've noticed is it's always connected to what's above our heads. So I've talked about aerial warfare, but there's other things happening, almost like split, what I call, breakaway civilizations aspects, in the sense of two worlds living simultaneously. And I've talked about that before, existing simultaneously, but it's more obvious to me that there's something obscured above our heads, which is quite massive when it comes down to the future. And I find that it's not everybody's aware of it. Apparently, those who are dialed in can pick up on more than technology and more than, the space projects, this, that, and the other. There's something else. And it seems to me like almost a whole new world eclipsing right above. That's what I've noticed. So that's just my own experience. Yeah. And it's almost as though it's like a blanket laying over us.
Right. Yeah, buffer system almost too. Yeah. Yeah. And it's some people aren't affected at all, but
lots of people are, and I'm finding people more and more confused than they ever have been before. I've experienced some vertigo from time to time, and it's like, wait a minute, there's nothing to have vertigo, and then when I sit with it, I realize that there's a wave that has come over the planet, and it's like, okay, it's not like heavy syrup, it's a light wave, but it's a light wave. So and I'm wondering, the other thing that keeps coming up is Middle Earth, and I'm wondering if there's a connection with Middle Earth.
Wow, that's interesting. Is it more inner Earth or Middle Earth? I mean, are you thinking like Lord of the Rings type Middle Earth, or an inner Earth, or a new world within emerging?
A new world within. Yeah,
that's what it sounds like. Yeah.
And it feels like something that has been internal is becoming external, and blending with where we are now, so that there is a blending going on, and that's where I see a lot of people getting very, very confused. And the other thing that I'm seeing is this is the time of year between Halloween and into the New Year a little bit, and then as we get into the May into July time frame, those are the two time frames where the veils between the realms actually thin tremendously. And I'm finding that thinning is a whole lot thinner than it ever has been before.
Yeah, it's almost like the doorways are open, period. End of story. That there's not even a veil between realms. Yeah. And I see that, too. We were just discussing this, actually, the other night about portals, and more than portals, but access points and doorways, where the fields change. I mean, and I think that vertigo you were describing almost sounds like that. So if you're doing an electromagnetic field scan, even as a psychic or remote viewer, you'll feel certain areas that are more electrified, more staticky, maybe heat signature oriented, or what you're describing with the vertigo. That's more technological, but also something beyond the space-time, if you ask me. So that, to me, tells me that things are moving and perhaps integrating, but also creating maybe a parallel bleed-through to some degree. I've had people tell me they're having amnesia, too. They're having a time displacement, where they're just like, time is like, all of a sudden it becomes like a stasis. They don't remember anything, and they're not like having dementia or anything. They're literally, that's missing time beyond missing time, but something's creating that glitch. I'm
also finding folding time, where another timeline folds over, and I've seen that around here where time is folded, and I'm viewing 200-300 years in the past, happening in shadows right in front of me, and then a bird flies through it or something, and it dissipates totally. But but that it feels like if there is a Middle Earth, it's coming more and more to the surface and blending more and more with the surface than it ever has before, so that the onion is being peeled, and we're having new awareness, new consciousness. Awareness, I like awareness better. More awareness that is becoming available to us, and portals absolutely. It feels like portals that have been closed for generations are beginning to open. It's kind of like,
I agree with that.
You see something that is covered by time and dusty and old, and you see it suddenly starting to kind of vibrate, and cobwebs falling down, and and over a period of time, it's becoming more and more and more active. Now, who or what is coming through is a whole other ball of wax, but I suspect that people who are not aware won't see the portals.
No. And also, it's like the same thing with UFOs or extraterrestrial design. or even just seeing beyond the perimeter of here, you have to change your vibrational field in order to open up that multidimensional sight, at least for most people, and that would calibrate them to another configuration. So, yeah, it makes more sense, that they would, some people will just be oblivious, like ghosts in the night, that they just literally do their thing, and then they do become kind of like spectators because they're not seeing anything else. It's almost like tunnel vision, and those of us who have our eyes wide open are observing and seeing so much more. So it's a real interesting contrast.
And those that come through look exactly like us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like it's. I happen to be a Trekkie, and in a couple of Trekkie episodes, they did travel back in time, and they had to blend in with the culture as it was, and so it feels to me that anyone who comes through is blends right in with the indigenous peoples that would be us. But
like
I
time
personally,
travelers, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what we're seeing. And I don't know why. I mean, they've always been here, but it seems like they are, while we're having alien invasions from the southern border, we're having not invasions, but we're being visited by people from other worlds who are similar to us and can blend in. And I think there's more and more of that happening.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are the visitors. That's the thing, and that's what I alluded to in my books anyway, descendants of the visitors, and that would make more sense in the sense that we talk about time traveling. We don't come from here. Our origins are cosmic, so even if we are incarnated or we enter onto a timeline here, we still come with that database, the bigger database from off planet. So, for me, I think that's what it's about, honestly, and I think going home to us, or usually is off planet, not necessarily being here, even though some people have an attachment to this realm. But yeah, I mean, that's what I see while I'm observing here.
And see, what I see happening is something that is, it doesn't make headlines. It's
right.
kind of like it's happening, and people are traveling back and forth, and I don't get the feeling that they're bringing, technology in that will save the planet or anything like that. I think there's I think the planet is going to be just fine. I mean, it may just shake us all off, but as far as that goes, but it just, to me, it feels like there's something else going on. And when I turn the TV on and I watch the news and stuff like that, it's like, well, where's what's really happening?
Right. We're not going to find it there. That's for darn sure.
Well, no, but one would hope. I mean, where does one find it? I know. I used to say to Patrick. Yeah. Patrick used to say to me, if I had news on or something like that, he said, "That's all lies. You really have to. You don't find truth there." And I said to him, "Well, where do you find it?" And he said, "Not in the places where we used to. You have to really dig for it to find it these days."
Mm-hmm. And also, I think remote viewing gives a huge amount of information when done correctly. So that's another aspect of it, too. Plus, a lot of us already know, and we get our confirmations as we go. But, yeah, it seems like, living in the world of the mundane where everything is obfuscated is no fun. And I find that it's frustrating, it's boring. It puts people in a very sedated kind of mode, where they're not really accomplishing anything. They're just kind of coasting. And I think a lot of civilization is doing that right now. They're not really living anything. They're just kind of existing and just kind of going along with the ride. And to me, I just don't like it, That's not my style, for darn sure.
No, and repeating history over and over and over and over again.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, broken record.
Yep. Yeah, you would think that after you see it happen 3 or 4 times, that you'd get the hint that this is not the way to go, that humanity is meant to go in another direction. But it's a power struggle, and it's. I know that Billy Meyer material. You're familiar with Billy Meyer material, I know.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's again, it's a joke, and there have been times and places where, in the past, in the distant past, even groups were sent off planet to be trained in war and to have their consciousnesses erased so that they didn't feel guilt when they massacred people, and then they were brought back to this country and turned loose. And it almost feels as though that's happening again today.
Mhm. Yeah, I think they are. Well, they have a lot of sleeper cells, and they definitely, well, the version of MK Ultra, or versions of mind mapping is definitely going on, where people are being compromised and synthetic alters, this, that, and the other. So that doesn't surprise me at all. But you're right. I mean, a sense of repetition of the wrong thing is no good. It basically just puts everything in an inversion. It implodes eventually. And I find that a lot of the people that are struggling to be on the top of the pyramid, so to speak, are the people that are wanting their own breakaways. But this is where money comes in. A lot of people who have these big corporations and big money, big tech, seem to be the ones trying to run the show right now, and contracting with Department of Defense and other areas to make it happen. And it's all global militarized. It's global military. So that's where these alters come in. That's where these people come in with their, activation and deactivation. So it needs to end, though. That whole program needs to go. It's non-beneficial to anybody. It really is. It's just not beneficial,
No, it's not. And, with what history tells us happens always in these situations is that those that grab for power end up going down in flames.
Yep.
So
they don't care. As
why
long as they die rich, with their money. And yeah, no, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. I mean, so why, knowing that is not a direction I would want to go, even if it were open to me. I'll be different. No, you won't. What is it? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And, so it's a matter of there has to be a better way, and there is a better way, and it's been laid out for everybody for generations and generations and generations. And at one point in time, the Earth was in that place.
Mm-hmm.
But that goes back an awful long time. But
well, it needs to be moved out of orbit, and that's part of it. I think I've mentioned that before, that we are moving out of orbit. We're going into another space-time configuration, but not fast enough as far as I'm concerned. And I think a lot of that has to do with the interference patterns that are being run with technology, just the misuse of technology. And I don't even know if they're understanding that they're misusing it or running interference. I think they're just ignorant with the technology they have, to a point where it's not benefiting because of the way it's being configured and the transmissions and frequencies, the way they're being modulated. So if we had the right people with access to the technology I'm familiar with, we wouldn't be in this situation at all. And as we've discussed in previous shows, people wouldn't be sick, they wouldn't have viruses, there wouldn't be anything at all connected to illness or in any formula, because we would be in a perfectly designed sphere, so to speak, of existence with the right frequencies calibrated with our biosuits. And you're not seeing that. And it's not rocket science. I'm telling you, it's not rocket science. I'm sure you're aware. It's really simple. Yet they don't want to go there. They just don't want to do that. So we do that while we're here. We change the vibration, but not to the level it needs to be changed.
Well, when you stop and think about it, up to this point in time, you have to go back probably another 50, almost another 100 years, that the technology that we developed, we were ready for. And suddenly we got technology that we were not ready for, that was not our own. And that's what set us into the spiral we're in right now. I mean, the tools of destruction that are out there are just horrific.
Oh,
And
well, it's all, like I said, it's global domination. It's literally whoever has the most toys wins. And
the thing is,
the
they are
artificial
toys.
intelligence aspect. Yeah.
I mean, the toys, the power is in their corner at this point in time. However, we are totally capable of changing everything, but it just is a matter of people taking control of their own energy and starting to put it in different directions.
Right. Yeah. Basically, it's like watching a television set that you don't want to watch the movie anymore. Turn it off and switch gears. And I would say keep your focus on the cosmos and integrate that cosmic energy into your biosuit and your field and your electromagnetic field and state of being. And that will make a whole different change, a whole different paradigm shift. But that's, it's not rocket science once again. It's just that's my suggestion for people. That's how you switch gears and switch the vibe, switch the energy.
Yeah, but do you ever feel that you're really here as an observer? You're just watching. You're not really a part of it.
Oh yeah, I feel more and more like an android every day. I just feel like I have a lot of I can't even explain it anymore. Yeah, and it gets to the point where you realize that, wow, how much longer are we going to have to be here? Because this is really getting old. And I'm not saying physically die. I'm just saying we need to get into a new frontier. And this is repetition. It's boring and it's non-productive. So, yeah, just live what you need to live. I mean, I would say live the vision, live the dream, your dream, not somebody else's, and do what you want to do. Keep navigating out of here, because to me, I've never been more adamant about getting off this terraformed rock called Earth, which I call, that's terraformed. Never have I been so adamant about leaving as I am now. And not physically dying, but literally just opening up gateways, opening up access points and traversing. I'm not talking like SpaceX, where you take the rocket and you go to Mars and you do this. No, we have technology that's far beyond that. What is he wasting our time with that for? Is that the best they can do? And I can answer that. They have access. I know they do.
Well, absolutely. And what gets me is, it's like our secret space program. Why are we wasting so much money on our space program on terra firma when the secret space program is already generations ahead of us out there in space? Why?
Right. Well, there's no looking back to it, and that's another thing. Right. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, but wouldn't that money help the poor, help the hungry, settle the people who have no home? I mean, they have the technology to cure cancer and all sorts of other things. Why aren't they sharing it? It doesn't make sense.
No, I agree with you, but the thing is that technology, all these technologies we discussed, it's not theirs. It's not their legacy. It's our legacy. And this is the biggest problem I have with these people, that they have co-opted a lot of that stuff, reverse engineered it. But we are the cosmic ancestors. We are the ones. And I'm very adamant about that. So everyone, every life form here who's a descendant of the visitors should have access to whatever they need on that level. There shouldn't be any of this going on. And when you talk about the breakaway civilizations off planet, I'm very familiar with the fact that once you're out there, you don't want to come back here. You don't want to look back. You don't want to be part of it. You don't want to integrate back over here. You don't want to. I mean, I can just tell you point blank, it's not coming back to here. And I find that I think that's one of the reasons that the breakaways keep moving on into other space-time and don't want to revisit this place, because this place it's beyond density. It's literally an inverted state of being. It's an inverted consciousness on a global scale. It's a global collective that needs help. And yet they don't want to help themselves. I mean, a lot of us spiritual path-working beings do, but if you look at the bigger scenery here, it's a mess. So it's really a mess. It needs drastic change. Drastic change.
And the trouble is, yes, we do need drastic change, absolutely. But there are so many people in power that will thwart the massive changes that have to happen, that it's impossible for them to happen.
Well, and that's the thing, is the illusion of power. No, I agree with you, Barbara, but I find that these people that are in power and the illusion of power, the only reason they have power is because they're backed up by the military-industrial complex or global military. It's not extraterrestrial design that's backing them up. It's the reverse engineered tech. It's the years and years of reverse engineering exotic technology to a point where they have global domination. And now they've actually mastered the low Earth orbit platform of space, and they're trying to go further out, but they're only being able to traverse a certain area. But I can tell you, those are the ones, they're the problem. There's no doubt in my mind that they're the problem. They're not the solution to any equation. And whatever they try to do to benefit on a space level is for them. It's not for anybody else. You get a few pictures from NASA here and there and sanitize at that, but nobody gets any real data. None, unless you do it yourself. So I know I probably went into a whole different tangent on that, but.
Well, I know Mary Joyce does a tremendous job with Google Earth and Google Moon and Google Mars, and when she finds things that are so obviously not natural to the planet, and she sends people to them. By the time anybody gets there, it's already been doctored up so that you can't see what she saw. Happily, she takes screenshots, so you can really see what she was seeing. But, you get to the point where we're not living in there is no freedom here. And,
exactly. Or truth.
And
truth.
I mean, it boggles my mind. They attack our food supply so that it costs so much money to actually eat that you can't afford to do anything else.
Right. Well, yeah, that's all linear stuff. But I agree with you. It's basically an enslavement program on so many different levels. There's no joy here, and there used to be. I mean, you used to be able to just walk in the forest, and you can still do those things, but it's becoming more and more intrusive. Everything is becoming more and more intrusive, more control mechanism oriented, social engineering, that aspect of it, and of course the biggest thing is the lies and the deception that I don't want to be an actor on a field, playing a game in something that I didn't even sign up for. And I find that a lot of people are here just kind of going with the show, and we don't even know what this show is. This isn't our show. I mean, you look and you see the stars at night and how many are satellites versus a real configuration of what you're supposed to be viewing, right? Because everything is obscured. And then we have, like I said, all the visuals you get from, I don't trust anything coming in from live feed, even live feed from space stations, or I don't trust any of it. I don't trust any of the data. I really don't, because I know what's out there. And even if you see little things here like, oh, watch this take off and watch how it lands, and yeah, that's all spectacular. Isn't it nice? And to people who aren't educated, it looks fabulous. But when you think about the bigger scenery, all of that is a game and a sideshow to something much, much bigger that we have access to that we're not getting, that we're not being allowed to be traversing and interacting with. So it's no good, but that has to change.
Well, I've often said that I feel that we are part of an amazing board game, and we are the pieces that are being moved around, and we have not got the faintest idea what the game is. And
right.
It just, to me, it's pathetic. And you look at the powers that be, or whoever they are, or whoever are controlling this whole thing. It to me is, it's like they must be having. I don't even believe that they're terrestrial, to be honest with you. I don't know where they're from or what kind of information they have, but they're playing a game with us, and
right.
it blows me away.
Yeah.
And you kind of, at the same time, we're very capable of having our spiritual reality. They haven't taken that away from us yet. But, and I don't think they will or can, but there's so few of us in comparison to those who are in power and those who are lemmings, literally. I mean, you talk to some of the people in some of these crowds, and they're protesting or they're pushing for one thing or another, and they haven't got the faintest idea what they're talking about, but they believe. And it's frightening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an ignorant mass collective, and I don't say that in being, arrogant about it, but it's just an observation. But that's the whole idea about being so ignorant that you're easily controlled. So if people don't have the answers, then they're easily socially engineered, in my opinion. I think if you're smart, you think outside the box, and you can see things beyond the perimeter over here, nobody can fool you. And that's the thing. Even if you don't have all the answers, you know that this isn't the right solution to the equation. These people don't, and they run in a hive collective where it's all socially engineered. It's almost like some kind of an MK Ultra, thing where they're just completely brainwashed, and with alters and all this programming that's running this defective. And I see it too. You're talking about these people in the illusion of power who want to be the controllers. It has been my experience, interfacing with synthetic telepathy and different programs, that there is technology that if you reverse engineer electronic programming, interfacing it onto a target, now, even if that's their personnel, it's going to change them. it's going to alter. They're going to be modified. It may not be extraterrestrial, but they will be different, and that will change them always. And even if you unplug them, they're still going to be modified. So that's my assessment on that level. So when you're seeing people like, who are these people? Well, chances are they just have a synthetic alter running, something that's been engineered, probably more than likely from the Defense Department. That's just my 2 cents and where I've been. So, this is why it's so interesting. Everybody's programmed.
Well, and just lately it's come out how the school systems have been infiltrated, and they're not teaching kids anything anymore. I mean, I'm horrified, and I'm a teacher. And if I had a child today, I would have homeschooled him from in utero all the way to college.
Right.
The schools are not teaching the kids anything that they can use to have a life by. I mean, they're teaching them. I don't know what they're teaching them anymore, to tell you the absolute truth. And I've got.
No, I think it's psychological. I think their education is psychological. It seems to me like that's all it's about, And it's not about advanced sciences. And I'm not talking linear science where you go to the best school in the world and it's a PhD and then you have a piece of paper that says you're intelligent. I'm talking advanced off-world intelligence networks and systems. And to me, when I look at the future of mankind, that's the new education system. It reminds me of Ender's Game, where you get interconnected, and that's the training program. But the problem with AI on that level is that you have to be right about the data codes you're interfacing onto that person who's learning. You can't just stream information to somebody's brain and say this is what it is. You have to make sure it's correct. But you have to use the cosmic database. They're not doing any of those things. I know I'm talking ahead of the timeline, but for me, when I look at the future of man, if we were to survive this, that's the training program they need. Because just get rid of the teachers. And you were a phenomenal teacher, obviously, and I wasn't there, but I can tell just by talking to you. But we don't have that anymore. Very few of them are really good at what they do. I would say at this point, an interface program that's not invasive, that is completely accurate without being biased would be the solution.
Well, when you look at what they're teaching, I mean, our kids aren't even reading at a third grade level. I mean, my concept of teaching is teach them to read and turn them loose in the library.
That's great.
Seriously.
Don't you remember Book of the Month Club? I mean, honestly, all those cool things. I
do. And it's funny. I had, my parents were divorced back in the 50s when it was something that happened all the time. And my sister and I were totally isolated because people didn't want their kids playing with us because it was catching, I guess. But reading saved my life. I learned about different cultures. I learned about I read my way through the library in a couple of categories. And it gave me the ability to find out what I needed and add it to me. And, to this day, I mean, I read at least 100 books a year, if not more. And that's where I get my material from. That's where I get my pieces of wisdom that I've woven together for my own philosophy. But I built it. And that's what everybody should be doing. And it's,
you had a foundation.
So it's, the important thing is to know how to read. And and they're not teaching that anymore. They're telling them what they have to think. And that's horrifying.
I can't imagine them not teaching the reading. I mean, I learned to read before I even attended a school. I was reading at like 5 years old, or whatever age that was. My mother said I was reading early on, and I know I was. But I don't even remember who taught me how to read. My mother never sat with me to teach me how to read. I don't even know how I did it. All I know is that I just learned. So it is interesting, and I find that, that's a huge thing that people need to learn to read, because you're right. Because then you have access to everything. And what I talk about is more the advanced program where you get an interface. It doesn't mean that you don't know how to read. It just means that the data codes, if you have a teacher in a room, it's almost similar to that, except it's a database of information that's accurate without, being biased and everything else. It just sounds like the schools today are just psychologically driven. So it's always about something that has nothing to do with education, more about personal issues and safe space stuff and weirdness.
Well, I know when my son was when he first started to talk, we worked with the alphabet and what are the sounds of the letters, and then if you put the letters together, what do you have? And then by the time he was 6, he was reading, and you know, and you turn him loose. I mean, if you can read, newspapers are used to be aimed at an 8th grade reading level. It's now down to a 6th or 5th grade reading level.
Wow. That's amazing.
Do
you catch typos in this? Because I do. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but have you ever caught typos on the newspapers and online feeds? Because these are supposed to be credible newspapers. Of course they're not, but they don't even know how to spell. Okay, I'm thinking to myself, in a society where you have auto spelling and spell check, and how can you mess that up? So sorry, I digress, but I had to mention that because I've caught it several times.
Well, and it's, you know, I know people that, you know, they had somebody type all their papers, and so, you know, they're you know, hopefully they were correcting that. This is before computers, and the reality is, I've learned I have a love affair with words, and it's because you know you learn new ones. My favorite word ever is blatherskite, and do you know what a blatherskite is?
Blatherskite? No.
Blatherskite.
No, I don't.
A blatherskite is someone who talks incessantly and says nothing.
Oh wow, I'll have to remember that one. That's good.
But
something like a chatterbox.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And you know, when I read the books for the radio show, I mean, there's a dictionary there. If there's a word I don't know, I look, you know, I hit it and I look it up, because it's a wonderful game. It's a wonderful, but schools don't, you know, kids have Kindles, kids have iPads, kids have spell check, they have grammar check, and they type in emojis. I mean, they are. Let's face it, they are taking our children back to the Stone Age and the drawings on the cave walls with the emojis.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, I agree with that.
I mean, it's coming full circle. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it is. Well, you know, it is kind of like caveman thing. I find that without the technology they're codependent on right now, they would have a hard time surviving. Beings like us never had this technology, so you know, we were adults when this all showed up, so it doesn't affect us that way. But I find that the people that have grown up with it absolutely are going to have a hard time if it shuts itself down. Which, of course, by that time, I'm sure they'll be streaming or interconnecting, or if they keep going with the world of transhumanism and that kind of thing, I suspect that that's where the end game's going to be. Somewhere in that window of real illiterate people living in caves and those people, something in between.
I mean, we're going backwards without a mass extinction. We really are. I mean, they're doing it themselves. Exactly, and I think the reading is what gets me so much, because reading is so important. I mean, I will read just about anything. You know, if you give me a book, I will read the book. I mean, I enjoy the adventure of it. A long time ago, I lost myself in books because I didn't have a life because of what was happening within our family. But the love of reading has continued, and you know, I love writing. And reading, and so but today kids aren't being taught. And that horrifies me. And in many cases, they aren't being taught my neighbor's children, the teacher was saying that the Holocaust didn't happen. I've met people with tattoos. I know the Holocaust happened. But the kids are being taught it didn't happen.
Yeah, everything is an erasure, you know, at this point. You know, like I said, it's a very compromised situation when it comes down to his story, her story, the version of a planet that, you know, in my opinion, is a terraform rock anyway, and a civilization. You know, they don't have anything right, as far as I'm concerned. And once in a while, they may give you a tidbit or a little tiny Easter egg of something, where they might have some little teeny tiny bit of truth in there, but most of the time it's all obscured. So it's really sad because, they grew up without the components of how and what happened, and how can they go forward when they don't even know their own history. Same thing with our cosmic ancestry. The cosmic ancestry is a big deal, and when you admit that, when you take that out and start to shred the DNA sequencing, you're just getting a fragmented society. We need to have answers connected to off-world intelligence, and that is the solution, in my opinion, one of the major solutions. And I find that even those of us who have been through the mystery school aspect of learning and reading and initiation or whatever else, we know. I mean, we've gone through the halls of Amente together, we've looked at that data. There's bigger scenery that's not being addressed.
Absolutely, and it's pathetic. I think that when you realize that they're trying to erase history, taking down all the statues, changing names of schools. I mean, this is part of our history, and if you don't acknowledge the history, you're going to repeat it, and that's what I'm seeing happening here. At first, it was very subtle, but now it's very in your face. And I kind of was really surprised when the Georgia Stones, one of them was bombed, and instead of replacing it or fixing it, they destroyed the entire thing. Again, the day may come where the Great Pyramid is plowed under, where that would be fascinating, because I think the Great Pyramid has a lot more to teach us than we know, and I do believe that there is material there that has been kept from the public.
Yeah. When you think about it, also, that's another one that was co-opted. So once again, people hijacked it and claimed that they were the ones that built it, this, that, and the other. Nobody really has that answer. But honestly, I can tell you, too many races, different species, whatever, have claimed ownership of many sacred sites. And a lot of them became militarized and weaponized, also covertly. So it's real interesting for me to see how many civilizations, layer after layer. Oh, they find something in the desert, and then they say they're the ones responsible for building it. That's what my point is. So there's a lot of that going on too, claiming staking territory.
Yeah,
we built this, they built this, and nobody built it.
Well, and as far as I'm concerned, for the longest time, everything happened, between 9,500 years ago and now. And the reality is that there have been 5 mass extinctions. And in every one of those, a culture that was highly organized and out there was destroyed. And you wonder, where are the remnants of it? And there have to have been ways of leaving messages to future generations so that we could pick up the strings of whatever. And my fascination is what happened before the last mass extinction. What was the culture that was here? What was the society that was here? What was the organization that was here? And whether it was a tsunami, a comet strike, or whatever, put us into mass extinction, that we had to be sent back to the Stone Age, literally, and had to rebuild and refine things that we knew or we had that were destroyed and wiped out. And we're on our way to that. Now, I don't know if it's going to be 1,000 years before it happens, but it's going to happen again.
I don't think it's 1,000 years in the illusion of time. I think it's going to be, plus, we do have the breakaways, so they are there, but they're not the ones that are the caretakers of the cosmos, so to speak. So even if they have a lot of data connected to, moving on with another civilization, they're not the ones. So once again, it's kind of interesting to see how that rogue species works. But it's interesting when you're discussing that, the future of this realm, because I keep seeing those water. I mean, the oceans. I don't even see ocean. It just seems to me like there's water coming up from beneath the floor, beneath the ground, that just comes from up, and it just goes up and up and up and up and up. Lots of water. So a different kind of flood, not coming from the oceans.
Interesting.
So, I don't know. It is what it is, but yeah.
Well, they've done some sort of research, and they found that deep within the Earth, there's more water than is on the Earth itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that we could become a water world again,
mm-hmm.
which wouldn't be bad. You know, that would definitely put out a lot of. It would decrease the population tremendously, and that it is happening. The oceans are rising. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, there's
another.
The water. Yeah, the water is an alien life form as far as I'm concerned. So you've got that going on, an intelligent design, programmable design, and depending on the ancient signature connected to that water beneath, where its remnant is, what its database is like, because of course it has an intelligent design also imprinted on it. And you look at the water there on that level.
Well, you also look into a lot of the Darren Kuyu, for one, which had all of those, 13 levels of passageways underneath. Why? What was it that made them feel that they had to dig that deep to over 5,000 people, they said, that with their cattle and things like that. How do you graze cattle that far underground for that long? I mean, it does pose a thought. And, they found tunnels underground everywhere, and we know they're underneath the Giza Plateau. I mean, I think they won't let anybody dig because they're afraid it will collapse the Great Pyramid and stuff like that. At least that's the excuse they give, because I don't know if that's really the truth or not. But isn't that where the master's ship is, according to Doral, that's where the master's ship is buried.
I think there's a lot of technology that has been either obfuscated or taken, maybe reverse engineered. We've talked about that before too. I mean, they've sold a lot on the black market. We really don't know how much is really left over. Seems like a lot of it's a shell. A lot of it's just like I don't know. And when you look at it, it's not what it should be. But it is interesting, and the more you talk about that underground, it tells me, well, that's why they always had the underground bases, and they had the facilities in connection to that. I mean, you look at even these terror cells. I mean, look how far they're digging down and surviving. So, this isn't something new. This is an old thing that's been going on, but it is interesting to see what's going on down there. And I find that there seems like almost like a demolition to reconstruction is what I get on a lot of different levels for that. So it would be interesting to see what happens to the Great Pyramid. I have a sense that it's not going to last. I know it lasts in a different field of energy, but I have a sense that it's going to get. I don't want to say anything bad about it, but you may find that within a lifetime, very soon, it may not be here anymore. That's a marker.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, everything is getting demolished, and that's one of them. Yeah.
Well, they've already, and then it makes you look at Göbekli Tepe. Why were those centers buried? They were hidden, and did they know something was coming, and were they trying to send a message forward? And if they were trying to send a message forward, what is it? And I would, we talk about there are gene banks and stuff like that are all over the place that are storing DNA for animals and plants and people and all sorts of stuff. Assuming that there is going to be at some point in time some sort of mass destruction or whatever, and if there is, then we're leaving these remnants of the building blocks of humanity, and you wonder, after all of this planning and all of this taking care of things and all of this storing and all of that, 1,000 years or 2,000 years or 5,000 years from now, when those vaults are found, are they going to be worth anything? Are people going to know what it is we were saving? Are they going to reproduce us, knowing the warring quality that is within us? And
they can genetically engineer that out. I agree with you. No, it's a great point you make, Barbara. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, so,
They
it's
can
sort of
clone.
like,
They can certainly clone. Yeah. I mean, I find that our civilization is designed to live off planet. We were never designed to stay here this long. That's my take on this world. That even though we have many, many generations of being here, it doesn't mean we're supposed to be here. And honestly, the way the world is, you can tell that something's not right. Okay, so it's more than just an energetic thing. There's something here that literally is not about being home or being what is our composition or what's connected to our composition. When you talk about the remnants, everything is stone. If you look and see even these ancient sites and structures, do you ever see any metal? I see stone everywhere. And I'm sorry, this isn't right. There's something wrong with that. There should be some kind of what I call not even a nanomaterial, but it would be a very advanced form of metal construct. We don't see any of that here. So it's really strange. Oh, you're telling me that everything is just a stone? That's it? That they just had nothing but stones to build? I'm not buying this game board. For me, it just doesn't ring properly.
Well, stone is the only thing that seems to survive time.
The illusion of time. Well,
yeah.
I find that interesting, and I find that there's something wrong with that. So as an advanced species, as I know what we are, we don't build like that off planet. We don't use that. So that tells me something automatically, that there's something wrong. We would never use that. Yeah.
But, it's funny because, take it down to, just a personal level. I had to declutter when I moved. And I've been the one that has held family history and stuff from the family and, to be hopefully passed down through the generations. And I have found that, there are things that I got rid of that now I wish I had saved because they'd been in the family for so long. But I think on a grander scale, that's what's happening. It's sort of like, what do you save? What do you preserve? And even if you preserve it, is the next generation going to value it or send it to Goodwill?
Right, exactly.
And I think that's what's happening with humanity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They don't appreciate the ancient artifacts or ancient information and even ancestors. I find that it's important, but that's already there embedded in the cellular molecular field. If you ask me, I think that at that level, they have the database of their ancestors. So whether it's a personality trait or information or even something that reflects a past life or future life, I think that they'll have access. But you're right. When it comes down to what do we keep? And honestly, if this world was to go tomorrow, what would be left? Our consciousness, whatever we are in composition, can move on into another space-time, more than likely.
Yeah.
But I find that we were designed not to physically die, that we were designed to actually navigate and live off planet where we can live a longer, fruitful life without all this interference of social engineering and religious indoctrination and global political agendas and everything else. I mean, that's, in my opinion, the true reality, that this is not the way we're supposed to be residing and living on this realm. So there's so much wrong here. I can't begin to tell you. I mean, I know you know.
I agree with you, and yet there's a purpose to the spirit traveling through time, experiencing what it's experiencing it. So there's got to be a point to it. It can't be pointless. There has to be a reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you're here because you feel a different time and space time is more appropriate, and that's an awareness that is, it's great to share it, and that's probably why you're here, and sharing that concept with others will plant a seed of wonder and a seed of, let me look into this, let me see, if she's full of it or if she makes sense. I mean, that could be why you're here. I don't think anything happens without reason. I just would love to have the reason so I'm more comfortable with the stupidity that I have to go through from time to time.
Mm-hmm. Right. And there's always the aspect of this place was a mistake. It was an error. And that it shouldn't have been here. It shouldn't have been in this configuration in any formula. That's nobody looks at those things like, well, how can that be? This is divine. And maybe not. Maybe it was something that shouldn't have been created here in this particular configuration. That's my point. And I've always said we were in the wrong space-time configuration, that we're not supposed to be in this one. even the moon, we've discussed that before. I'm sure it showed up out of a different space-time. It wasn't something that's supposed to be here, and I was surprised it's still lingering around, but it's a beautiful full moon, obviously, tonight. But, I mean, there's so much on that level you can look at, and whether people want to think the happy thoughts and think that, it's all for a reason, or is this just a big error, and that there's so many flaws here that those of us who have become more advanced, when I say advanced, meaning that we're just so dialed into what's off planet that we can see it from a different perspective and a different angle, we can see the flaws and say, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. So
this is a cosmic oops.
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, I really do. I think that's obvious. I don't know. I mean, what everybody's thoughts are on that, but for me, I'm looking at like, man, what a disaster. There's some beautiful elements here, but when you think about it, when you terraform something, it can be beautiful overnight. You can make all kinds of beautiful things, and the trees and the elements and this, that, and the other. And, of course, the state of being, the state of consciousness, and how that syncs up. I think there's a lot to be said about that because it's an integral life form now. Everything is interconnected and intersecting to a point where it's alive, intelligent, and even the people here, they're all connected as a collective of energy. So you have to factor that in, too, which I'm sure you have, but on that level, what keeps it going? What keeps the pulse of this world going? I hope it's not fear, because that's not gonna do any good.
No, but I've heard it said, and I do believe it, that on many levels, Earth is sort of in quarantine, and and it's important that we be in quarantine because, frankly, we are a rather primitive race at this point in time. I mean,
well, they're officially engineered to be that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I mean, but look at the people that created it, the puppet masters. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, but look at us. We have the first thing we do is we get an army. What's the purpose of an army? War. And it's not. And if you even tried as a country to exist without the army, you'd be taken over immediately. So you have to have the army. And
because they're hostile. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. But that's not all of us. And I find that those who are different, like the descendants of the visitors, we don't operate like that. We fight when we have to at all. That's the last resort, self-preservation type thing. When it comes down to it, there's a cosmic flow where it's just one of those things that's a protocol. You just don't behave that way. That's why I never understood why they have all these contracts with military and the Department of Defense connected to space platforms and SpaceX. I'm like, you know what? That's the biggest flaw Musk has made is contracting with the Department of Defense. And I know that the only way he can get off planet is with them. He can't do it alone. There's no way. So, but that is a monkey on his back that's going to haunt him, and he doesn't even know it.
Yeah, I
changed
agree.
the subject. Sorry, but I'm just doing an analysis, and I do see that, and I agree with you. But we're not in quarantine per se. In my opinion, this is like I said, that the social engineering is the flaw. That's the mechanism. And if you look at the what I call sentient machine intelligence or intelligent design, it doesn't have all this this programming connected to that kind of aggression. So that's something, in my opinion, that can be engineered out of the DNA sequencing. I don't want to sound like one of those off-worlders who, have meddled in the DNA, but I do find that that's happened. So however that's happened, it's happened, whether it's through vibration or through warfare, however. And I do know that electronic warfare will definitely bring out the hostile energetics. It will definitely bring out the warrior, no doubt. So.
Well, yeah, and that's what we see. And the last 6 months, we've seen that come more and more and more to the fore. And the outrage on so many different levels is it's overflowing in society as a whole. And there are groups of people who are fighting one another and don't know why they're fighting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just, it's kill. It's a race. It's I the more I look, the more, and the more there are, of late, babies that were killed. I mean, come on. we are a society where we are capable of talking things out of but unfortunately people in power have agendas, and they're not looking after their people. They're looking after their history, or their, what are people going to, think or believe of me in the future, and can I put together a dynasty, or can I you still have people wanting to have dynasties, and
not on this.
It's amazing, and you step back and you think, how can this happen in this century? How can people have still kept those primitive qualities within them, so that they get to a place where they have power, and then they can wield that power and just laugh at anybody trying to bring them into reign, to, the laws don't apply to me, and apparently not. So, and we've got stuff going on, and it's going to continue into the new year for sure. So, and, if anyone who has lately been to a grocery store knows, the kind of outrage, I feel anyhow.
Oh, yeah. No, it's getting ridiculous. I don't know we were talking about this the other night, what exactly has gone up the most, and I can tell you point blank, plastic bags, the price on plastic bags has escalated big time. There are certain things that are just, all of a sudden, are just off the rails when it comes down to what they're trying to charge for certain things. I don't know about the food. I mean, you're talking about edibles. But I've been looking at other things, too, and it's like, wow, this has tripled in price, and I thought that's interesting.
Well, even the food that is available has been engineered to the point that it's not nutritious anymore. Have you seen the pyramid of of the different kinds of foods and the things that are now on the pyramid, as opposed to milk and eggs and I can't remember the things that are on it, but it's so ludicrous and ridiculous. It's just, and yet it's there, and it's being taught in school.
Once again, an unhealthy diet. Isn't it crazy? Like I said, everything they're doing right now is so linear and so density related. It has no value to the cosmic design. And I'm a firm believer. I mean, fasting is a great thing to do when you can. Your body responds to fields of energy. So, vibrational foods. I'm sure you're familiar with vibrational healing and foods and how you can change that. Yeah. Not only do you bless your food, but then there's a book, I can't remember the name of it now. It was a great book on vibrational medicine, but it dealt with foods and the vibrations they are associated with. And I find that it's very, very important, that your body is fueled by something that syncs up with the cosmic frequencies instead of just being geoengineered out the wazoo and makes you feel extra fat and extra full. And it's just no good. And people are so allergic now to dairy. I mean, a lot of people have a lot of issues with that. So, it's a lot of that going on.
It's just, it's unbelievable. Check out the different foods and where they are on the pyramid.
Ridiculous.
These
what,
days.
It's like crickets now? I won't be eating those. Right?
No, I mean,
that whole cricket thing.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not going to eat those. But it's really it's frightening how they're teaching people to be unhealthy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, I agree with you. But I think the electromagnetic field, the way it's being remodulated, and some of this dirty electricity, I mean, that brings in inflammation. That can actually add to weight gain, headaches, all kinds of things. Dirty electricity is very bad for you. So, that's another aspect of it as well.
One of the most important things ever out there is earthing. If you can walk barefoot on the ground for half an hour a day, and on the ground, I'm talking soil and grass, not in your house, and to reconnect with the Schumann energy, that helps to fight arthritis and all sorts of and inflammation and all sorts of other things. So it's and yet the healthy stuff is out there, and people aren't taught. People aren't given the chance to look at it. It isn't taught in school. Your food groups aren't being taught anymore in a healthy way. And a stupid thing, cursive is no longer taught in school.
That's so stupid. That is dumb as good grief. Yeah.
And yet you can't open a bank account without a signature.
So basically they just put a little X. That's their
signature.
They
have to have I think they have to have a signature.
But no, I mean, people are going to get to that level. I love having a signature. I've always used to practice writing my name, you know. Of course, I sign my books, but you know what I mean? Didn't you always do that when you were young? So to write in cursive and make this beautiful, like, pretty, you know, the way it looks. And that's a shame that they don't teach that creative design work within,
Yeah, so,
block writing.
And it isn't that I'm holding on to the past. It's I want to honor the past. I want to recognize the past, and it's not being taught. And you know, like I said before, I've got one grandchild who's going into his senior year next year, and another grandchild that is going into her freshman year next year, and in college. And I'm horrified. It used to be the first semester you did the basics so that you learned what you should have learned in high school, but high school didn't teach you. Now it's the first 2 to 3 years, and you don't specialize until your senior year. So I mean,
wow.
Certainly there are career paths where you know it's the science stuff and technology like that, but for the most part, they catch you up so that you can hopefully read, but it's a waste of time. College is no longer a place to get an education. It's a place where you socialize.
Right.
And because I mean, when I look at my college years, I learned nothing. I mean, everything I know today, really, I taught or learned myself. You know, it looked interesting. I looked into it. I learned about it. College didn't teach me anything.
Right.
I mean, it taught me.
No.
It taught me, you know, one semester you have a bank account in one bank, and the second semester you have a bank account in another bank, and that gives the first checking account a chance to clear everything, so that when you come back the next year, you go back to the first account, which is now balanced out. And you know, that's the only thing I actually learned in college.
Jeez, that's terrible. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me though, not at all. Yeah, it's a waste of time, but you need that piece of paper to make more money in the illusion of. It's a game board they play here. So, you know, people don't get a college degree. I mean, if you go get something, at least you're able to make more money. That was the whole idea behind it, was to have some kind of successful career instead of having a job. There's a difference between a job and a career. You know, anybody can have a job that doesn't a career.
But it doesn't work that way anymore. And, you know, most jobs you have to fit into their framework. And so you have to learn their framework and fit into it. And, you know, there's very little room for creativity these days in any job.
Yeah.
I had a friend who worked for IBM, and she was in a meeting for something, and at one point there was a lull, and she said something like, "I think this might work better," and she was told she wasn't paid to think.
Are you kidding? Oh,
no, I'm
not
serious.
Acceptable. Wow.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's terrible.
This is IBM. This is IBM.
Yeah. Well, I've worked for EDS. You know who they are, right? Electronic Data Systems. That was back in the day when I was very young. I didn't put up with anything. I would tell off the GM if I needed to. And they respected me after a while. But I can tell you, you know, it is not easy working in those corporations. I'm sure you're familiar with that. So, especially if you think outside the box, and you're not part of that game board. That's terrible, though. But I think that hands-on training is important. And I find that the best people who learn are the ones who are just trained. You know, just train them. You know, sometimes you don't need to go to a college and get this 4-year degree or whatever else. You just get the training. You get the training, and then you're good. So
even
that's opportunity.
Yeah, even even a trade school. I mean, if you're taught to, okay, this is the problem, how can you fix it? To use your creativity to figure out how to fix something or how to shift something around, to encourage the creativity within any individual. You know, it's important. It's crucial, and creativity is something that is not taught or even kids aren't even given the opportunity to stretch their creativity and come up with different answers and different ways of doing things. It's toe the party line, which is frightening.
Right. Yeah, I agree. There's no room for expansion. That's unfortunate, It really is.
Well, when I taught school originally, and I graduated in the 60s, and I was given a classroom of kids, and I was told to teach them any way I wanted to. And by the time I was at the end of my career, I had to do IEPs on each kid for every subject, and the state would come in. They would do surprise visits, and they wanted the IEPs for each kid. And they would go to that kid's desk and see what he was working on to make sure it was on the IEP.
Oh, my gosh. Wow. What a drag.
And it was like there is no way to be creative with these kids anymore. There's no way to, I can only speak from my own experience. There may be schools, there may be places, there may be administrations that allow for it. But for me, letting the kids, give an indication of what they're curious about. I remember, and I taught special ed, and I can remember talking about Egypt and meditation, and, they asked what meditation was, and so I pulled the blinds down and I put music on, and we sat there, and I talked them through a meditation.
Oh, how
and I
nice!
said, this is what they, this is what they do. This is what they did. This is how they cleared their minds and were able to focus better. And it was a something they did every day, and it was part of their ritual of living. It was like eating 3 meals a day and meditating. And, so I was able to do that with special ed, but not at the end. At the end, I had to make sure that whatever was in the IEP was being addressed every day. And that's no way to teach.
No, it's not.
So,
but that's the whole idea, it's such a construct. School systems are just that. I never liked school. I never resonated with it. I never did.
Well, I think one-room schoolhouses were a good way to go, and I no longer really believe that special ed should have a special classroom. I believe teachers should be mixed in with the total population so that the regular kids are taught compassion for those and how to help. And it just, but again, it can't be done because it can't be undone. It's they've been isolated, and that's where it is. And there's a whole program with special trained assistants that are never trained appropriately, and it's a very sad. Our education system sucks.
I agree. I don't know if it's better in other countries or not. I'm assuming it's probably similar in some weird way, but yeah, no, I agree. That's really the output of a bad society. A society that's not up to speed with bigger scenery. Their learning capabilities, their assessment, and situational awareness, I can go on and on about what their capabilities are, just common sense. None of that is there. So, except they're glued to their iPhones.
And it's sort of like, well, see, that's one of the problems. You can ask your iPhone anything, and it'll give you the answer. So why should you bother to learn it?
I know. That's like the tricorder in Star Trek, isn't it? Kind of like, they're convenient. I love it, too. Don't get me wrong. I think that they're really cool. But I also understand, bigger scenery. you multitask in different realms and use whatever, tools you have. But, Yeah, no, they're not really utilizing it properly, more than likely.
Yeah, but when it comes down to, well, sending it got to the point where you can send an email, which was fabulous. I love it and I use it too. But then it came down to texting, and then it came down to, the emojis, and everything comes, it takes away personality. I don't talk emoji. I have no idea what a lot of those things mean. So, if somebody sends me emojis, I just, type back, I don't talk emoji. You're going to have to use your words. And it's kind of like saying to a kid, use your inside voice or your outside voice. It's kind of like, use your words. Tell me what you want to tell me because, and I have other people that will just talk into their phone, and because of how they say words, what they mean to say and what they actually say are two different things. So, no.
Yeah. The translation comes out wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, I have one person that if he says for, it comes out fur. And, it's sort of like you have to be able to. Typing. Yes. but again,
you have?
it's something that actually was made a lot of things very convenient, but it took away from our ability to be to communicate better.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
it's and communicating is so important. Darn it.
It is. Well, I think it is, and being intelligent is, in my opinion, important as well. You want to learn as much as you can while you're here. That's for sure.
Oh, exactly.
So, yeah.
But look at what they're doing. They're taking all sorts of stuff out of the curriculum, which is history, and
even the athletics. I think aren't they taking out that too? Music and athletic terms. I don't know. I thought they were trying to ban all that too.
I think one of the interesting things. Somebody did a study. I don't know how true it is, but I do remember reading the report that there is only one president that did not have descendants that owned slaves. And that's Donald Trump, because his family didn't come over here until way after slavery.
Mm-hmm.
But every other president has relatives, has ancestors that owned slaves at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And
well,
the demand to pay reparation to people, just is so ridiculous.
Oh, that's
unbelievable.
A crock. No, that's inexcusable. No, everybody's been a slave at some point in space-time, in my opinion. So, that's just not even relative, honestly.
Well, I have ancestors who were indentured. That's slavery. But my theory on the reparation thing is that yes, they're all entitled to reparation. You give them exactly what they were given back then, an acre of land and a donkey.
Well, the thing is, it might have been, it's not them. They have lives, they have opportunities, they have college. They're not slaves. But I will say one thing. If you're on this terraform rock called Earth and you have to work for a living and you can't survive without working, then you're indoctrinated as a slave. That's slave labor, in my opinion, because if you can't make it without working, then you're a slave. And I'm not saying this against people. I'm just saying there's something wrong with this, once again, this quote-unquote civilization that thinks that's okay. It's not okay. It really isn't. So that's the whole idea. People waste their lives and rot their lives away. How many hours a day? 8 to 10 hours a day, working something they hate. And by the time they get to retire, what's left? They're exhausted, probably not healthy. That's slaves. That's an indoctrination program. And I'm sorry. So everybody's a slave, as far as I'm concerned. If you have to do that, if you're a multi-billionaire and you don't have to do anything but play with toys all day, that's real nice. That's good for you. But most people don't have that opportunity.
Well, not only that, but we're all slaves because just about everybody has credit cards they owe money on.
Yeah.
And, you're encouraged to overspend so that you owe money. And, if you get that credit card up high enough, there's no way you'll ever dig out, so you are a slave.
Yeah, the interest rates are skyrocketed, especially since the shutdown. Things have gone up drastically on that level. Yeah, no, that's true. But once again, this whole scenery is just a joke and a half. We have free energy. We have all these things that can change the realm And why it's not happened? Well, it's unfortunate. But yeah, that's why I said this place is backwards. Everything here is backwards. It's like living in a primordial area. We talk about the past and history and in the old world days, but I find it just as inverted, even with technology.
Oh, I agree. Well, and look at Tesla had a way of giving free energy to everyone. Now, there's nothing stopping our government from building Tesla towers and giving the country free energy.
Well, they have all kinds of satellites over your head every day, and they have their Wi-Fi, and they have all this other stuff beyond the 5G. But it's more about, once again, it's a weaponization of low Earth orbit. It has nothing to do with benefiting anybody here. Once in a while, you'll see them send some kind of a Starlink over to somebody in distress, but honestly, no, they've got plans, and the plans aren't involving the mass collective. Unfortunate. I should say they have plans.
I agree. I agree, and it's sort of like what I'd like to know what their end game is. You know,
well, they've already living it. You know,
well, this is an end game,
right?
Well,
I think they find the mass collective as a nuisance. You know, if you think about it, they look at them as like ants on a. If you look at the world from a distance, you see these little tiny things walking around. That's people, right? It's that kind of thing. They really don't care. It's like ants at a picnic. In my opinion, I think it's all collateral damage, and it's one of those things where it's non-relative. All they care about is what they can accumulate, what they can weaponize, and what they can do with their toys. And now that they think they can run the cosmos, which they cannot, that's the bigger scenery. I mean, that's what they're after. And so far as global domination and now planetary domination when it comes down to staking territories in whatever they can. I still question some of the stuff they're doing with that asteroid and some other things. I'm really not convinced they're actually able to do the things they say they're able to do. I think a lot of it's propaganda. But I do know through my own interface that there are things that we can do that are phenomenal and beyond, and light years beyond what mankind can ever suspect. So.
Well, I agree. But at the moment, we're just cannon fodder.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not planning on being that. But, yeah, no, it's true. Everybody's here in the line of fire. And if you're on ground level, most of them can run in an underground base somewhere. But if you're just walking the world here, it's completely toxic because it's like a dirty fishbowl, like I said before. So unless you have some kind of really nice multi-billionaire faceted lifestyle, which in my opinion, even these rich people, if they're not living off planet, they're still screwed as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, maybe that's Musk's vision of getting out of here because maybe he knows. Because I know, you know, if you have that kind of money, dude, you should be lingering around here. I'll tell you that right now. If you want to play games and think the planet's so cool and people are entertaining, now you're missing the picture here. So a lot going on. There's a lot going on. And that's what I mean by people getting sidetracked over in the Middle East and some other areas, especially even with what's going on in this government here with the border. I mean, I can go on and on about that. Of course, you don't hear anything about all that. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that you know is it blows my mind. And some of the people in power saying, well, we have to let them in because somebody has to clean our houses and, you know, do our gardening.
Yeah, she wants people to basically kiss her butt 24/7. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hysterical. But the thing that bothers me the most about what's going on right now, well, not the most, but one of the things that bothers me is that so many of these people come from a climate that is so hot, it's unbelievable, and they're sleeping in the streets of New York and Detroit and Chicago. Now, I know what 4 feet of snow can do, and I know what winter is like.
I can do.
And every time I think about that, all I can think of is going way back to the Black Plague when they would come with carts, you know, down the streets yelling, you know, bring out your dead. I mean, what is going to happen when there is a blizzard and these people who are barefoot and have never seen snow? What is going to happen to them? I mean, I'm terrified because these people, they're going to die like they're going to. I mean, I think many cities are just waiting for, you know, the snow to come to kill them.
Well, if you know, there's stuff that they were putting them in 5-star hotels up there in New York City, wasn't it? So they're not sweating bullets on that one. Go ahead.
Well, no, but there are still people on the streets, and they're cutting.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of homeless. Yeah. Mhm.
And you know, when you get 3 feet, I mean, I lived in Minnesota and Michigan, both of them. I know what the snow can do, and I don't you know, I don't know what is slated for this winter, but you know, when it comes to January, February, March, I mean, it's brutal. How are these people going to survive?
Well,
I mean,
I don't know if they factor in everything, quite honestly. Yeah.
I mean, you know, yes, let's go to the United States where it's kind of like way back, you know, go to the United States where the streets are paved with gold. I cannot believe that they would walk as far as they've walked to come to this country to die. And I think that's what's
I think they're going to get
to
treated better than that. But, yeah, I think that also, I know a lot are in Texas, a lot are in California. They do go to the warmer climates, and also like Florida. So I don't think all of them are in like cold climate. But, yeah, you know, you have a point there on that level. But they're also given money. They're given food. They're giving whatever it is they need to survive, as far as I know. I think they're giving more money than your average Joe and your average homeless vet. So we'll see where it all goes on that level. But still, you know, like I said, how many are decent people and how many are criminals? You know, that's another scenario altogether. So.
Well, exactly. I mean, there are some very genuine people there, but unfortunately, mixed in with them are terrorists. And
we're loaded with terrorist cells right now. Even the FBI has been saying it, but you know, they knew this years and years ago. We had these guys training here in this country for decades. So for them to say all of a sudden, oh, you should be careful. You know, dude, you guys knew it a long time ago. This is nothing new under the sun in this country when it comes down to terror cells. So, yeah, it's kind of like a free-for-all now.
Well, you know what has always, what I still am curious about, decades ago they made a big thing about the 800 FEMA camps that were all over this country, that were all manned and ready for disaster people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've had disasters, and they never opened any of the camps for them. And those FEMA camps could have housed just about everybody that's come into this country. And if they had put them all in the FEMA camps and then vetted them from the camps, and you know, those that had to be sent back would be sent back, and those that were, you know, cleared could be released into the general population. Yeah. They could have done that.
And that takes intellect.
And that
they
way,
don't have it.
And but the camps are still there. What are they?
Mm-hmm.
What are they waiting for? They had Katrina. They didn't use the camps then. They've had a lot of, you know, some horrible things happen, and no place for the people to go. And those camps are and ready for people. Why aren't they using them? Right.
No, that's a good point you make. I know they put some on a military base, which made no sense to me whatsoever. When they first started coming over the border, I was like, what the hell are you putting them on a military base for? That made no sense to me. Everything's so jacked up here. Like I said before, I just can't even, there are no words to describe the kind of garbage that's going on in this country right now. So it really is just a circus.
Well, it's fascinating to watch. I mean, but they're human beings too, and you hate to see human beings treated like this.
Well, no life forms, even animals. I mean, nothing should be mistreated, in my opinion. You know, but this is a very dirty world. It really is, and I try to look at the light on it. I try and light on it and see the positives, but now it seems like the negatives outweigh the positives on so many levels.
Well, you really want to. I mean, listen. This is a big country. There are ways that we could have assimilated all of these people if it was done right, and it wasn't. And you know,
oh, no.
so I just, I drove across country with Patrick, I don't know, 15 years ago, and, saw how much space there really is there. And, we could have assimilated them and, put them on big farms or something. Do you know people are paid in Tennessee here to not grow crops? And yet there's a food shortage. There's a food shortage.
Who's paying them? Obviously the government, right? What's the
government
why?
Is.
But why?
I have no idea.
Makes no sense. They want everybody to starve?
I think it's to keep the prices, whatever. But, I mean, we have farmland here that people are being paid to not plant.
That's
Give it
insane.
a break.
It's really weird.
And,
that just doesn't make any sense.
Russia, we send wheat to Russia, and yet there are people hungry here. This is, I have no problem with sharing our wealth. I have a problem with giving away when there are so many people here that are in need. That bothers me.
Well, I don't think we have the wealth we used to have in this country. That's another scenario altogether. Even if people are independently wealthy, that's not the country itself. That's another reason why the rich are able to manipulate this country, is because they're calling the shots with their own bank accounts a lot of the time. Unfortunately.
Scary.
Yeah, it's really corrupt, and it just is, But it's, we've got 2024 right around the corner here in the Illusion of. I don't know if you put a forecast out yet on your website.
Not yet. December is coming up this next week, and that'll be out before the 1st. And then December will be out there, and then the forecast for next year, 24, will be out there, as well as January. So I got those three that are slated to go up and out, and
that's good.
Yeah, it's I'm being kept busy for sure.
Oh yeah.
So, but it's exciting. Here I get to be creative. Here I get to get the juices flowing, and it's very exciting. And I love doing the podcasts, and I love writing for the website. So, I'm very fortunate, knock on wood, that in my golden years, I don't know why they're called golden. There isn't a thing about me that's golden.
If they be platinum.
Yeah, maybe platinum. I don't know, but it's it's a very exciting, creative time for me. But for a lot of people, it's not, and you kind of. I again have been very, very fortunate that Nightlight has run 15 years now, and
wow, it's amazing.
Yeah, it really. I kind of am blown away by just how how long I've been doing this stuff, and I think what's really kind of cool is there are over 1,100 shows that I've done so far.
Wow, that's good. That's amazing.
It's a lot.
Quite a bit.
And
yeah, it is.
when you do something like this and it's a joy and it's fun, you're not. I don't think there's anything that I've done because I wanted to do a lot of something or I wanted to make a name or anything like that. I have just had a lot of fun doing all of this, and I think you did the same thing. I mean, you do it because you enjoy it. You don't do it because you have to.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely. I do like it. It's been an interesting road, an interesting journey.
Well, you've done your show, Hyperspace and The Witching Hour. You've done both of them for a long time, haven't you?
Right. I do, and I think everybody knows by now that KCOR is closing down. The station's going to close down. My last show on Hyperspace is December 1st, and that's with Space Boy and Solana. So, yeah, that's going, and that's 8 years with them. I'm still on Raven Star's Witching Hour, and of course, that's on Revolution Radio, and that's how many years I forget now, but it's a lot. since they've been around, so pretty much. But that's a lot of work, and like you were saying, it's not like it was a chore per se. I really do enjoy interviewing people, and I enjoy sharing information. Like you and I, we have a great dialogue. We do. I love this show. I think we have fun with this, so that kind of thing as well. But yeah, it's really not anything that I ever made money on. That's for damn sure. And we never looked at it like that. But it was what it was. And I think in these times, education, if you can share information, gnosis, wisdom, even laughter, I mean, if you can just raise the vibration a little bit and change the energy and get out there on the airwaves, I think that's a huge deal. I think that's more impactful than anything, quite honestly.
Well, I agree with you. And when you can tell when you're putting something out there and you're doing it because there's a joy in it for you to share, then it reaches exactly where it's supposed to go. And I know that I don't have numbers on a lot of places, but I do know that on Blog Talk Radio with YouTube included, there have been more than 500,000 downloads. So, it's kind of like I know that people are downloading it. I don't know if they're listening to all the show or anything like that, but I do know that there is an audience out there that reaches for the information, and it's very exciting. And I do books that intrigue me. Sometimes they'll have material in them that everybody will be interested in, and sometimes not so much. But I know Gary Wayne's new book is coming out.
Oh, nice.
Probably in March. And when I took a look at it, it has so much material. It has 7 different categories or groupings, and I took a look at it and I said, now I'll read this, but you've got to understand there's so much material here. And he said, well, what do you think? And I said, well, I'll tell you what I think. He said, let's do it. And I said, you don't know what I think yet. And so we're going to take all 7 of the categories that he has the book divided into, and we're going to do a weekly show on each of them. So I have 7 straight weeks of Gary Wayne.
That's going to be great.
I'm really looking forward to that. That is going to be so spectacular. I can't wait. I mean, 7 weeks of Gary Wayne. Oh,
that's great. I like the way you're doing that in sequence, too, and that breaks down the book so it's not overwhelming for the listeners. That's nice.
Oh, yeah. I mean, down into the Nephilim Wars and all sorts of different sections. So it's going to be, and again, I'm having fun with this. That's why I'm doing it. So that, I'm not, nobody's dictating to me, and so it's fun. And I think you're doing the same thing. I think you're evolving into, what is best for you, which is really cool. So, I think, who knows, you may do another book while you are on hiatus. You never know.
Well, I'm working on a star map, and that's my next book. So it's a star map book. Yeah.
Oh, that's
It's going to
cool.
be complicated. So that's the thing that's why it's taking a little bit of time. And I'll probably throw a couple other books in there at the same time, but trying to get that one going. It's actually a star map in correlation with traversing the galactic highway and getting from point A to point B. I know that they have their own trajectories and they do their own mapping, but I'm doing my mapping. So it takes a little bit of time because I'm not using a formula I'm not using your generic formulas that you can download, or like most people do. So anyways, it's going to take a while, but just like anything else, it'll be nice, be fun.
Well, yeah, I think that's, I think the Internet has become a wonderful way of expression for me. It's a toy in many ways. I can put material out there and I can get it out to thousands of people, and the show goes around the world, and it's really in my entire life I never had the the dream of being able to sit and talk in my office here and talk to somebody who's across the country, and then have it go out across the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
right.
Wow. Just wow.
Isn't that cool? Remember the old days when we had flyers and, I don't know about you, but I had flyers, and then I had, I had business cards, and I had a little website when it first started the internet, but nothing.
Uh-huh.
And then the whole thing changed. Everything changed. Of course, the interconnection
yeah.
happens, and but it's interesting. Yeah.
I traveled all across the country doing, readings and stuff like that, and and flyers, and oh my gosh, and then the internet just became my venue, and it was so cool. I just noticed we're almost out of time. So hyperspace. The last show is on the 1st of December. That's KCLR.
That's correct.
And then the Witching Hour is on Freedom Slips.
Mm-hmm. On Saturdays.
Is that Saturdays? And your website is where?
It's nightshadowanomalydetectives.net. I still have the other one.com, but it's getting revamped, so you can find me over there. So people can probably send me a message if you need to at nightshadowanomalydetectives@protonmail.com.
Okay.
If they need to. Yeah, but thank you so much, Barbara. This was fun.
Always. Hopefully we won't be in any way censored, but my shows are more likely than not being censored these days, which is kind of cool. It means we're saying something true. So the shows will always be the shows will always be on Blog Talk. Blog Talk does not censor, but YouTube does. So you might want to check Blog Talk archives for Nightlight to see some of the shows that have been outlawed, so to speak.
There's Odyssey
kind of
too,
fun.
Barbara. Odyssey also will not. Well, you can transfer your files from YouTube to Odyssey.
Odyssey, right? Odyssey. H-O-N?
Yeah, Odyssey.
Oh, Odyssey.
Yeah. That's what I had to do because they kept pulling my videos.
Spell Odyssey for me.
I think it's O-D-Y-S-E-E, if I'm not mistaken. They spell it kind of funny, but I can send you a link.
Yeah, thank you. I'm always on the lookout for another place to put us. So we will be back the end of December, the last Sunday in December, unless, of course, it's New Year's Eve, and then we'll reschedule. But thank you so much. It's such a joy to have you and Neon Twilight on Nightlight, and a joy,
Barbara.
An absolute joy.
Likewise. I always enjoy being here with you. Thank you.
It is fun. So good night, and good night, everybody, and thanks for being here with us. We so appreciate your listening to us rant, rave, and go on. And we'll be back the last Sunday in December. Also, I have a show tomorrow night, so please check that out. The link is on my website, barbaradelong.com, and we will talk to all of you. Good night now.
The journey to earning your degree as an adult can seem daunting. It's a path paved with uncertainty, but every great accomplishment starts with a single step. At Bethel University, we know this path well, so take that first step and let Bethel University be the catalyst that propels you toward a brighter future. Bethel University, where we belong and become.
We made USAA insurance to help you save. Take advantage of discounts when you cover your home and your ride. Discover how we're helping members save at USAA.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.